Welcome back to part two of how to publish your book absolutely free. I'm Paul Bailey and I want to be your publishing consultant. And we're going to be talking today about getting your book published, the step by step process. In part one of this video series, I explained a little bit about self publishing and why you might want to hire a publishing consultant such as myself. In this part, we're going to walk step by step through the process of publishing your book all by yourself without paying anyone, including me, any money. I'm doing this because I want you to see how you can do it yourself, and I also want you to see how much knowledge I have available to share with you. But before we get started on the step by step process, I want to make sure that you understand a couple of things. Number one, we assume in this video that you have already written a book. I also assume that you have had someone besides yourself read or proofread that book. I also assume that you have had a professional editor look at that book. And now you have a manuscript that has been written by you, proofreaded by someone else who is a good reader, and then edited by a professional editor. Those things I am going to assume. I also assume that you have a working knowledge of word processing software such as Microsoft Word or OpenOffice or Apple Pages, any of the major word processing software sets. I'm going to assume you have a working knowledge of those. If you do not, that doesn't mean you can't do this. It just simply means you need to hire me a little earlier on in the process, and we'll work together to get it done. Okay? Now let's talk just a moment about that manuscript that you have now that's ready to go. And we want to talk about the margins for printing. The left and right margin should be a minimum of 1/4 of an inch on the left side, 1/4 of an inch on the right side. If you have written a very long book, over 300 pages in the trim size that you've chosen, then you may want to go to a 1/2 inch on the left side or a 1/2 inch on the right side. There's a space between the pages. In a book, we have facing pages, the left page and then the right page. And there is a space in between those two pages that we call the gutter. We need to make sure we understand how to use that gutter space effectively. Otherwise, words are going to go into the gutter, and it's going to make it very difficult for your reader to see them without breaking the back of the book. So we want to leave enough gutter space in the middle where the words won't fall into the gutter. For a normal book under 300 pages, 3/4 of an inch should work. 300 pages and up, you want to be at least a 1 inch. And if you're going to write a really, really long book, you might want to go to 1.5 inches. Sorry about that. Now, let's get started on the step-by-step process for getting this done. First thing I want you to do is go open a browser. It does not matter which browser you use. Today we're going to use Google Chrome. You can use Safari, you can use Firefox, you can use whatever you like. It doesn't matter. When you open that, I want you to type in kdp.com, and Kindle Direct Publishing will open. Now, if you don't have an account with Amazon, you're going to have to go through a process to secure an account with Amazon. To do that, you simply click on somewhere on the document and you'll come up with a page that looks much like this, where you can sign in still with your Amazon account if you have one, and if you don't have an Amazon account, you can sign up. They're going to ask you things like your name, your address, your social security number, because they are going to be paying you directly for any royalties that you have earned with your book. That's why they need to know your financial information, such as your social security number. Once you have given that to them, you can go ahead and sign in with your Amazon account and get going on it. Hold on just a second here. Thank you. We're now logged into Kindle Direct Publishing, and we're going to walk through step by step how you can create your book. Kindle Direct Publishing used to be a part of what was called CreateSpace. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on that because it's not important anymore. To create a new book, a new title, you simply choose to either create an ebook, Kindle ebook, by clicking here, or a paperback by clicking here. Format is really the only difference between the two. So for today, we're going to choose paperback. We're going to have to type in a title for our book. So, for example, Heaven Can Wait. That's just the name of an old movie. It doesn't matter. You type in your title to your book. If your book is part of a series, there's more than one book in the series, you can type in the series name and the series number here. If it's not part of a series, don't worry about it at all. Or if you decide later to write a second book in that series, don't worry about it at all at this point. Edition number. If you've written this book before, you've written another version of it, you can write in this is a second edition or a third edition. But again, it's not necessary. You don't have to do that. And so you can go ahead and just continue on down the list here. For your name, you have to write in your first name and your last name. For purposes of just demonstration, I've simply chosen the name first for my first name and name for my last name. If there are other contributors to your book, you'll want to write in their names here, and you can write in as many as you like. This is completely optional, as you can see here. You don't have to do this. And then the last thing on this page to do is write a description of a book. And the purpose of the book description is to tell the readers a little bit about the book. You're not going to tell them everything about the book. That would be no reason to buy the book. You're simply going to write enough information to let them know what the genre of the book is, what the book's about in general, and maybe something to hook them to where they will want to purchase a copy of the book. All right, for publishing rights, as the author, you're going to own and hold the necessary publishing rights. So you're going to click this button and then go down, and if you would choose, you can add keywords. These are all optional, and these are words that would describe your book in one or two words. For example, history or drama or whatever your book might be, fantasy, it doesn't matter. And you're just going to write those words in so that people can find that in if they choose to do that, and if you choose to do that. Now, we're going to talk about two categories that your book will be held under. And if your book's fiction, obviously, you're going to choose that one. If it's something else, you'll choose the appropriate type of category for your book. So let's assume that you're a fiction book. And you can see as I roll down here, that there are a number of different choices for fiction. And whatever your book is, that's what you would fill it in. If it's a romance, you'd click here and you'll find a whole bunch of different romances. If it's science fiction, you'll click here and you'll walk down and see a whole bunch of different science fiction ones. If it's a thriller, maybe it's a crime thriller. So we'll choose that for now and save. So one of the categories our book would appear in if we did that would be fiction, thrillers, and crime. And we could add another category if we'd like, but that's not, it works exactly the same way, okay? And you may print in large print if you would like to. However, if you are going to submit a book in large print, remember that the font size on your manuscript must be 16 point or above. If I just lost you on what I mean by font size, it's time to send an email to easytime@me.com, EASYTIME@me.com, Tell me where I lost you on this video, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Last but not least on this page, does this book contain language, situations, or images inappropriate for children under 18? If it does, you would click yes, and if it does not, you would click no, and then hit save and continue. You'll see that the process is saving, and it will move us on to the next point in our process here, which is obtaining an ISBN. Well, what's an ISBN? It stands for Industry Standard Book Number. Industry Standard Book Number. And if you have your own already, you can use it, or you can have KDP assign you a free ISBN. And this is the ISBN that they have assigned us. We might want to copy that, and I always like to just take this and put it in my notes file so that I know that what my ISBN number is for that, and I won't forget it as I'm doing my manuscript and preparing that for publication. Okay, if someone were to look up that ISBN number, it would come across as independently published. There's no problem with that. A lot of people are doing that. You may choose a specific publication date for your book to be available, and if you do not, then the date that it's available on Amazon will be the publication date. Print options. Let's talk about that for a moment. You can choose the interior and paper type for any of the books that you print for print. If we were working with a Kindle book, this would not apply because there's no pages, no paper pages in a Kindle book. So you can have black and white interior with cream paper. You can have black and white interior with white paper. Or if you have imagery inside of your book, you can have color interior with white paper. For my books, I always use black and white with white paper for my novels and color interior with white paper for my children's books. Trim size. Trim size is the size of the book as measured from left to right and up and down. So 6x9 would be 6 inches wide, 9 inches tall, for example. These are all appropriate standard trim sizes, and you can use any of these trim sizes you like. It doesn't matter which one. However, if you choose a non-standard trim size, the distribution of your book may suffer because Amazon does not push books with non-standard trim sizes for additional distribution. So be aware of that. I always choose 5x8 for my novels because it works for me. If you prefer 6x9 or some other one, pick that one for you. Let's talk about bleed settings for a moment. Most books you don't have to worry about bleed. All bleed is it's whether the printing is allowed to go off the page for an image or whether it must stay on the side of the page. So we're just going to assume that you don't have that issue and choose no bleed. And then you have to determine how you want your paperback cover. Do you want it to be matte or glossy? Now, I always choose glossy. And that's it. We're ready now to upload our paperback manuscript. Now, as you get ready to upload your paperback manuscript, you should have an opening page that has a title, your book title, in your manuscript. You might want to have a publisher's page where you give all this book is fiction, that kind of thing, all rights reserved, and all of those kinds of information. And that ISBN number that we copied earlier should go in there as well. If you have what I call thank you pages, dedication pages, that kind of thing, those should be written ahead of time. And then once you've got that done, you're going to paste that all into the size of document that you have chosen for the trim size. In other words, if you've chosen a 6x9 trim size, you should upload a 6x9 manuscript. If you choose to do business with me as a consultant, one of the things you'll have on my website is access to templates that are in each of the different trim sizes that exist. And you'll be able to utilize those templates to copy and paste your whole manuscript into without much work at all. That's it for part 2. When we come back, we are going to talk about how to create your book cover and then how to finalize this process. Thank you for joining me.